The polar vortex is a massive area of low pressure and cold air surrounding the Earth's poles. When it's stable, it keeps the frigid air contained, but sometimes it weakens and splits, creating two separate cores. Right now, we're anticipating a significant split in the polar vortex, with one core forecasted to drift into North America. This means we're in for a colder February, as this breakaway vortex brings a surge of Arctic air down into the United States and Canada. Adding to this, a stratospheric warming event is on the horizon, which often precedes these splits. As the stratosphere warms, it disrupts the polar winds, leading to that split. The result? A dramatic shift in our weather patterns, with the potential for intense winter storms and plummeting temperatures. So, brace yourselves for a chilly change as we dive deeper into February. The polar vortex is a fascinating phenomenon that shapes our winter weather. Picture this, a massive circulation system that stretches from the surface all the way up into the stratosphere. At the lowest level, the troposphere, we experience all the wild weather: snowstorms, freezing temperatures, and those biting winds. But just above, in the stratosphere, things get a bit drier and more stable. This is where the ozone layer resides, protecting us from harmful UV rays. We can think of the polar vortex as having two distinct parts: the upper stratospheric layer and the lower tropospheric layer. Each plays a unique role in influencing our winter climate. When the polar vortex is strong, it keeps the cold air locked in the Arctic. But when it weakens, that frigid air can spill southward, bringing icy blasts to much of the northern hemisphere. Understanding this dynamic helps us predict those dramatic shifts in weather that can catch us off guard. The temperature forecast reveals a fascinating scenario unfolding across North America. A strong cold air mass is sweeping through the United States and southern Canada, a direct result of a recent polar vortex split. Typically, when one of these cores shifts over a continent, it ushers in frigid air, and that's exactly what we're witnessing now. However, if we turn our gaze to Europe, the picture changes dramatically. The cold air anomaly has vanished, with forecasts leaning towards a warmer pattern. This divergence is intriguing. The cold gripping North America is driven by the polar vortex core positioned right over us, while Europe remains unaffected, lacking a strong low-pressure system to stir things up. It's a striking reminder of how interconnected our weather systems are, yet how localized their impacts can be. As we approach the final days of February, the pressure anomaly forecast reveals intriguing dynamics in the lower stratosphere at 50 megaly. The polar vortex is attempting to reform, but a significant portion remains anchored over North America. This positioning is set to influence regional weather patterns dramatically. In the extended range forecast, we can expect a persistent low-pressure zone hovering over the United States and Canada, while a high-pressure area lingers over the pole. This scenario suggests that the core of the polar vortex will continue to dominate our weather, ushering in a sustained northerly flow. The temperature forecast aligns with this, indicating a robust cold air mass sweeping across the United States and southern Canada. This is a classic response following a strong polar vortex split, where one core migrates over land, bringing frigid air with it. Prepare for a chilling end to February as these atmospheric forces collide. The surface temperature model reveals striking polar cold anomalies sweeping across the United States and southern Canada. Meanwhile, warm anomalies are emerging over the polar circle, a direct result of the cold air being pushed southward. The coldest air is concentrated over North America, where one of the split polar vortex cores is set to influence regional weather patterns significantly. Expect a northerly flow across the northern half of the United States, with only the southwest and southeast escaping the brunt of this cold wave. As we delve deeper into February, the lingering effects of the split polar vortex will still be felt. Turning our gaze to Europe, a wave of colder air is anticipated around mid-February, driven by the shifts in weather patterns post-split. High pressure over the pole is facilitating this colder air spill, creating a northerly flow across the continent. The pressure anomaly forecast from an ensemble system illustrates this, showing a robust high-pressure area over the polar regions, which is displacing low-pressure anomalies and cold polar air toward North America. This scenario reflects the stratospheric anomalies, with a large polar vortex core making its way into our region. A split polar vortex is a fascinating phenomenon that occurs during stratospheric warming. When temperatures and pressures rise sharply in the stratosphere, it disrupts the circulation patterns, leading to a collapse of the polar vortex. This is crucial because it creates low-pressure anomalies, particularly over Canada and the northern United States. As a result, we see a significant impact on weather patterns across North America, with a northerly flow bringing in frigid polar air. The surface temperature forecast reveals a chilling outbreak, affecting the northern, central, and eastern regions of the United States. This isn't just a random occurrence. It's a typical aftermath of strong polar vortex splits, and it can lead to some of the coldest temperatures of the season. Understanding these dynamics helps us prepare for the extreme weather that can follow. Looking at the temperature anomalies in the mid-stratosphere, we can clearly see a significant stratospheric warming wave over the pole. This indicates a strong disruption in the stratosphere, leading to a major shift of the cold polar vortex core. Instead of remaining in the polar regions, it's now pushing into the mid-latitudes. When the polar vortex splits like this, it typically results in a high-pressure system forming over the polar circle. As the vortex divides, the remaining cold air masses are forced southward. In this instance, we observe one core moving directly over Canada and the United States. The mid-month forecast reveals pressure anomalies from the surface to the top of the stratosphere, vividly illustrating this split. One core is clearly connecting down into North America, setting the stage for some intriguing weather patterns ahead. In 2025, we're witnessing significant stratospheric warming, driven by powerful waves from the lower atmosphere that push energy upward. This surge in energy raises pressure and temperature in the stratosphere, destabilizing the polar vortex from the top down. By mid-February, forecasts revealed two robust high-pressure areas splitting the polar vortex, creating a connection over the pole. One core is set to drift over Canada and the northern United States, influencing weather patterns below. This split in the stratosphere leads to low-pressure systems forming in the lower atmosphere, indicating a shift towards more unsettled weather across North America. The mid-stratosphere pressure anomaly at the 10 megli level shows these daughter vortices emerging, with one core poised to impact our weather significantly. The interplay between these stratospheric changes and surface conditions is crucial, as it sets the stage for the weather we experience in the coming days. The polar vortex is undergoing a significant transformation right now. We're witnessing a deformation, with warming waves creeping in at the edges. In the mid-stratosphere, at the 10 Magr level, the geopotential height and temperature reveal a growing stratospheric high over the Aleutians. Meanwhile, at the 50 Melrook pressure level, the polar vortex is no longer the perfect circle we expect. It's being compressed from both sides, forcing its core toward northern Canada. This compression is akin to squeezing a balloon. Eventually, something has to give. The core is elongating, with pressure waves pushing against it, straining its structure. So, how do we gauge the strength of this polar vortex? It all comes down to the winds. A well-organized vortex means stronger winds, which can significantly impact surface weather. Currently, we see a robust polar vortex, but forecasts indicate a rapid deceleration ahead. Each line in the analysis drops lower, signaling that the deformation is intensifying. This is a critical moment in understanding our atmosphere's dynamics. The polar vortex is a massive area of low pressure and cold air surrounding the Earth's poles. When it's stable, it keeps the frigid air contained, but sometimes it weakens and splits, creating two separate cores. Right now, we're anticipating a significant split in the polar vortex, with one core forecasted to drift into North America. This means we're in for a colder February, as this breakaway vortex brings a surge of Arctic air down into the United States and Canada. Adding to this, a stratospheric warming event is on the horizon, which often precedes these splits. As the stratosphere warms, it disrupts the polar winds, leading to that split. The result? A dramatic shift in our weather patterns, with the potential for intense winter storms and plummeting temperatures. So, brace yourselves for a chilly change as we dive deeper into February.